Well, good evening. Welcome to our sixth candidate forum. And this is the League of Women Voters Forum for Blacksburg Town Council candidates. My name is Günün Kran. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters. And this is in conjunction with Montgomery County, Radford City, Floyd County, NAACP. And we have Karen Jones on the timing is Political Action Committee of NAACP. And we have our Voter Services Vice President, Peggy Jones, our moderator, and our league members, Susan and Carolyn, will be sorting the questions to avoid the repetition. This is our almost the last forum. We have another one for Christiansburg Town Council next week. And thank you for being here. Thank you for candidates for being here and participating in this forum. I'll turn it to Peggy.
Thank you, Günün. Tonight's candidate forum includes all candidates running for a seat on the Blacksburg Town Council. Unlike the other forums that we've hosted, we've also invited 2 candidates who are running active write-in campaigns. This decision was made after being notified by our registrar of their status and what it means to run an active campaign. In preparation for tonight's forum, the candidates were provided with 5 questions. 2 or 3 of those will be asked tonight, but all other questions for the forum will come from you, the audience. You should have received note cards to submit your questions. If you would like a note card, please raise your hand and one of our volunteers will bring you a note card and a pen if you need one. If you have a card to submit, hold it up and they will pick up the card and bring it up here to our question sorters. For folks watching on the Blacksburg Town website, we are not able to receive questions remotely. All of the questions submitted will be screened for duplication and variety, and to ensure that the questions asked tonight are relevant to the decisions that a town council member makes. The moderator, that's me, will address those questions to all the candidates, so every candidate will answer or have the opportunity to respond to every question. And I will rotate the order in which questions are asked between the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell why they're running for office. And each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer each question. We'll be using the little lights up here on the podium for our timing, and you'll get a yellow light when you have 30 seconds left and a red light when your time is up. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. To make sure that we have time for as many questions as possible, I would ask you to hold your applause until the end of the forum. We're here tonight to hear from the candidates, and we want to have as much time with them as we can. Are we ready? All right, let's get started with introductions. We'll start first with the candidates who are on the ballot, Jerry Ford and Michael Sutton. Jerry?
So my name's Jerry Ford Jr., and I've served you on town council for, this is my 6th year. I was born and raised in Dale City, Virginia, and I first came to Blacksburg in 1987 to attend Virginia Tech. In 1991, I received a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. After graduation, I began what became a 31-year career of public service with the Commonwealth of Virginia, while living and being an active community member in Blacksburg. Along the way, I received a Master's of Science degree in Environmental Management from the University of Maryland, and I've served on the boards of the New River Valley Bicycle Association and Sustainable Blacksburg, and with my wife, co-founded the NRV Bike Kitchen. I enjoy bicycling, hiking, reading, and exploring the back roads of Virginia with my wife and best friend, Beth. So as I stated, I first started serving in 2018, and I ran in the special election, and in 2019, I ran in the special election, or the regular election, and I committed to being committed to doing the job, integrity and transparency in everything that I've done. And to honor that pledge, I've taken steps to ensure that I've listened to everyone and I've brought their concerns forward during budget discussions, development reviews, and other town initiatives. I bring a fair, balanced, and reasonable perspective, and I always have a cue on community values and the long-term future and success of our town. I hold myself to a very high standard, and I work very hard to respond to everyone, make sure they know that I've listened and I've heard them, and then I try to be a voice for them during the process. That's what I have.
Thank you. Michael.
Sure. First, I'd like to thank the NAACP and League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's candidate forum. This is always a wonderful service to the community and a highlight of every campaign season. I'm here today not just as a candidate, but as a dedicated public servant who has had the privilege of representing this incredible community, our community, for more than a decade. My name is Michael Sutphin, and I'm running for re-election to the Blacksburg Town Council. My journey in public service began right here in Blacksburg, where I arrived as a Virginia Tech student in 2002. During my college years, I discovered a passion for service and even got my first taste with local government as a reporter for the student paper covering council meetings in this very room. Since then, I have served you as a member of the town council, as vice mayor, and as a planning commissioner. I have dedicated myself not only to addressing the challenges our community faces, but also capitalizing on the incredible opportunities that lie ahead. Tonight, I want to emphasize three key pillars of my campaign: investing in our community, expanding opportunities for everyone, and building a sustainable future. These are not just campaign promises, they are principles that have guided my service and work on the town council. Our town is growing, and it's essential that our infrastructure keeps pace. I have voted for a wide range of capital projects to revitalize our downtown, enhance our trails and recreation amenities, improve transportation, and upgrade our aging utilities. We must also address the housing challenges faced by our citizens. Rising prices and a shortage of homes are issues we cannot ignore. I support land use policies that encourage the creation of more housing for all income levels, not just the highest earners, and I look forward to having a candid discussion tonight about how we can meet Blacksburg's growing demand for affordable housing. Lastly, sustainability is not just a buzzword, but a commitment to our environment, economy, and social fabric. I'm in favor of initiatives like transitioning to electric transit vehicles, promoting renewable energy, and preserving green and open spaces. I look forward to a constructive and meaningful discussion tonight.
Thank you. Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick Johnson. I'm an independent candidate. I've lived in Blacksburg for 30 years. Both my daughters went to school here. I worked at Virginia Tech for 17 years. Worked at Duke for a little while in a commuting type of thing. But my daughters grew up here. This is our home. This is where I retired to. I had a chance to retire really anywhere, but I chose Blacksburg because of its wonderful people, the outdoors it offers, and it's just a great place to live. So the reason I'm running is because I have a strong sense of service. I ran for school board about 15 years ago and spent 4 years on Montgomery County School Board. And that was for the same reason. People said, what are you going to run for the school board for? That's a tough job. And it was really because neighbors said to me, will you run? We need you on the school board. And that happened with town council. Neighbors came to me and said, will you please run? We need change. We need people that will listen to the citizens of Blacksburg, will keep an open mind, will treat us with respect. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work hard for you, and I'm going to tackle the tough issues, because we have a bunch of tough issues, but we want to tackle them together in a win-win situation, not a win-lose situation. And we can do it. We can do affordable housing. We can do development. Citizens can leave those discussions feeling that they were part of the solution. And that's what's been missing, and that's some of the change I hope to bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Liam.
Well, thank you, Peggy, and a special thanks to the local chapters of the League of Women Voters and NAACP. You know, folks, these two groups have put on countless forums year after year to keep us all in touch with the folks who hope to represent us. And through my day job, I'm the press secretary of the Democratic Party of Virginia. I've gotten to travel all over the Commonwealth, and let me tell you, not every county is as lucky as we are to have folks like Karen Jones and Gunan Karan and Peggy Lane who put together these events. So really, thank you guys. If I haven't already met you, my name is Liam Watson, and I'm a write-in candidate for the Blacksburg Town Council. It's an honor to be seated at this dais again. In fact, this is the very chair I was seated in when I was up on this dais as a member of the Blacksburg Planning Commission. I told the Roanoke Times that I got into this race because I have a heart for service. And that's exactly why I'm here tonight. Having received Councilman Sutphin and Councilman Ford's endorsements, and thank you both very much for your trust. I want to work with them to finish the work that I started on the Planning Commission. And Blacksburg is my hometown. I was born and raised here, and I want to build a Blacksburg that's open to everyone, regardless of income. So I'm committed to bringing your concerns, including the pressing issue of affordable housing, to the forefront of town council discussions. At the age of 24, I recognize that my youth sets me apart in this race. But my experience, combined with a youthful outlook, positions me to bridge generational gaps and work towards solutions that benefit all residents, from students and young professionals to families and seniors. I'm not just a candidate, I'm a passionate advocate for every voice in our community. And I've been looking forward to tonight for a long while. I'm excited to tell you about the vision I hope that we share for the future of Blacksburg. And I look forward to hearing from each of you about the hopes that you have for our shared hometown. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start off with our first question, which is, what are your top priorities for Blacksburg? And we'll start with Michael.
Sure. So I touched on this a little bit in my opening remarks. One of the things that we really need to focus on is infrastructure investments in the town of Blacksburg. We all know that the town of Blacksburg has grown by leaps and bounds in recent years. We need to make sure that our infrastructure, including our transportation, our public utilities, and our services that we're providing to the community, keep up with that. And there's lots of ways that we can do that. We need to revitalize our downtown through streetscape improvements. We also need to work the town is working on creating a retail incubator space to support our downtown. We need to renovate our community center and enhance programming and make it more accessible for our residents. We need to expand and improve Blacksburg's trail system and outdoor recreation amenities that we have for our community. We also need to work on pedestrian and bicycle improvements within our community, especially along Price's Fork, Main Street, Clay Street, and elsewhere throughout our town. There's definite improvements that we need to make. I think that we need to expand Blacksburg Transit service. We've had some interruptions with the service as a result of COVID. I think that we need to return to the pre-COVID levels for Blacksburg Transit service, and in addition to that, increase service so that more members of our community can use Blacksburg Transit. Another priority for mine is expanding opportunities for everyone in Blacksburg. This includes affordable housing that we were talking about earlier. That can be achieved through a variety of ways, whether that's implementing land use policies that create more housing types like accessory apartments, or working on things like small lot residential zoning is another area that the town of Blacksburg is working on. As I mentioned earlier, sustainability is also a big priority for the town. I would support, as one of my priorities, helping to transition the Blacksburg transit fleet to use all electric vehicles. I would support our local and regional food systems. And I would promote energy efficiency and sustainability practices in building construction, not just in town of Blacksburg buildings, but encouraging it in private development.
Thank you. Liam.
Thanks, Peggy. As I've been out on the doors, I've been telling folks that I've got 3 Ps that I'm running on, and it's planning, parks, and people. When we talk about planning, we need to make some serious updates to the infrastructure we have here in town to accommodate the growth of the town itself and the growth of the university that sits in the town. And we need to do, as Michael said, a lot of work to kind of revitalize the downtown space. When I sat on Planning Commission, we had a case come to us where a healthcare group was looking to put their offices on the main floor of Kent Square, a giant development in the middle of downtown. That we don't have enough foot traffic in our downtown area for businesses to be successful, to generate revenue in this area. And we need to build the downtown that works for everybody. Part of that is mixed-use development, so development that provides both business space and space for residents. And of course, the top line issue tonight, under at least the banner of heading, is affordable housing. I think that's the real issue that's plaguing Blacksburg right now. If you look at the mean income inside of Blacksburg, it's about $75,000, $80,000 a year. In the county, it's $36,000. There's a huge financial disparity between people living inside of Blacksburg and outside of Blacksburg, and I want to cut those people in on the deal. Part of what makes Blacksburg so special is the parkland that we have. Inside Blacksburg, we have about 500 acres of parkland, including 27 different facilities and 39 miles of trail. That's incredible work that the existing council has done to make Blacksburg more attractive for folks to come here and enjoy the great outdoors. I mean, our most valuable natural resource in Blacksburg is our view shed. And lastly, people. We need to do a better job of reaching out to communities in Blacksburg that might not interface with the town council. Ask a Virginia Tech student when the last time was they talked with a member of town council. Ask a member of town council when the last time was they met with a Virginia Tech student. I think there's a lot of work that can be done here to bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry.
So for my campaign, I have 3 focus areas as well: good governance, equitable growth, and quality of life. I want to focus in on the good governance. One thing I've experienced over these past few years is that when people are not happy with the decision we make, sometimes they're not happy with the decision, but other times they're not happy with the process. This spring, I brought this topic up to town staff and my colleagues, and I continue to explore this and hopefully get something modified in the future. I believe when we have public hearings that spark more interest and engagement from our community, those public hearings, we should hold the public hearing, take the comment, and we should wait 2 weeks before we vote on it. That gives us time to digest what we've heard that night. It gives us time to have follow-up questions either with town staff or the applicants. Our process is a very long process, but adding 2 more weeks on it just to get it right. Land use is important for our community, and I think it's important that the citizens feel that they've been heard. Part of this comes from my experience doing public notice and comment period for the state of Virginia. There's a certain way we do it at the state, and I'd like to see us do it as well with the town. Another thing is the town uses this process when it comes to the money matters. When we do the capital improvement program, when we do the tax rate, when we do the budget, we hold our hearing, we get the comments, we pause, we follow up, and then we ultimately vote. In addition to that, equitable growth, I want to see us continue to have planned and reasonable development, and that means protecting the people that live here while offering opportunities for others. Quality of life is big. I'd like to see us figure out a way to finally upgrade our recreation facility. It's pretty dated and old. It's well used and well liked. And I want to continue to expand our parks. We're under great growth pressure, and so we need to double down on the lifestyle parts that make our community great. Thank you.
And Rick.
So my top priority is to address affordable housing. We've all talked about it. It is one of the top priorities for Blacksburg and Blacksburg citizens. But it's how we address it. We know it's a problem, so how are we going to solve it? And I think the best way to solve it is through involvement of citizens. Involvement of citizens is not a meeting or hearing input. It's real involvement. Those of you who remember the Maple Ridge development, that was going to be high-density, high-rise apartments. The neighbors came together, approached town council, and said, this is what we'd like to do. What you're proposing is not great for the town. Town council voted against that high density 7-0. And then they told the developer, you work with the citizens group and come up with a compromise. What they came up with was Maple Ridge townhomes that we see right now. Very effective, multifamily, served the needs of the developer, met the citizens' need for less of high density, and served the town well. That's a sample of the process that I would like to have us follow. And people left that feeling we were heard, we were involved. This is part of our development. This solution was part of ours. So with short time, I've talked about overdevelopment. Development's great, it's overdevelopment. We don't need another story on top of a hotel when we don't have infrastructure to support that. You know, perhaps sometime in the future, but not now. Another one is to rebuild the trust in town council. I think that's been eroded, and I would hope to rebuild that.
Thank you. So one of our questions from the audience follows up on this theme. Citizens are concerned with overdevelopment and associated problems. Traffic, looming, and sometimes unsightly apartments changing our views. This development is driven by developers more than by citizens and favors students more than families and seniors. What can the town council do to manage development, to maintain the character of the town and opportunities for all citizens? And we'll start with Liam.
Thanks, Peggy. I think there are a lot of myths out there about affordable housing, a lot of myths that oftentimes prevent people from fully understanding the impact that affordable housing will have on the community it will sit in. I hear a lot about, this claim that affordable housing is going to increase traffic and we can't accept more traffic on our roads. But the truth about affordable housing is that residents in affordable housing own fewer cars and drive less. And building higher density in areas where there's already retail encourages walking trips to those retail shops. Building out our infrastructure for bicycle traffic is going to reduce congestion on these roads, especially around affordable housing developments. And what council recently did, making Blacksburg Transit fare-free forever, has enabled families from low and middle income households to get around town without contributing to the traffic problem we have here in town. So I think that's the first myth that needs a little bit of busting. The second myth is that the people that move into affordable housing won't fit into the neighborhoods that it's being built in. And I think that really stems from an anti-poor bias that's pervasive in this country. I mean, left, right, and center. You might be the most, we'll say, pious Democrat you have out there. And at the end of the day, if sex, gender, religious affiliation doesn't matter to you, what really does end up mattering to you is socioeconomic identity. And so we need to find a way to, as a community, get over this fear of having people from low and middle income families live in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go next to Jerry.
So I think the key word there was managed, and what concerns me most is unmanaged growth, so I agree with that question. So the number one thing I think is that our comprehensive plan is a good guide document, but our zoning ordinance was done, revised, created in the mid to late 1990s. That's a generation ago. We need to devote the time and resources to update that. I mean, we've done piecemeal pieces of it, but we need an overhaul of it, and we have capable staff, but if staff are overwhelmed, then we need to find resources to pay for that. We need a comprehensive plan and an ordinance that allows us living in the 21st century and our needs to be realized and to encourage the type of development. We all know that the traditional model is living in a suburban neighborhood, home ownership. That was always the American dream. But we don't have enough space in town to accommodate everyone at that level. I think if we, what we're starting to work on now, and I hope to continue that work, is to have a new ordinance that allows still single-family homes, but on smaller lots. To me, that's the middle path that gets us to where we can find housing for a whole demographic of people that are the missing middle that we don't have right now. And I think it starts with that hard, boring work of redoing the comprehensive plan and giving us the tools we need to achieve the results we desire for our community.
Thank you. Rick.
So we've heard the word density a couple times. We'll probably hear it a dozen times tonight. But one of the things when density is discussed, sometimes it's said that neighbors don't want affordable housing and they don't want it in their neighborhood. And the truth of the matter is that's not true. Not true in Glade Springs. Anybody that's familiar with that development and what went on, they said give us higher density. Instead of 180 homes, though, give us 88 homes. Make them all affordable. So they weren't afraid of affordable housing. They were afraid of 180 homes that was packed too dense on that property, that was impacting water quality as well as quality of life. And so the thought that's out there is anybody that says anything about affordable housing is a NIMBY, doesn't want those folks here. I can speak for my neighbors and people have spoken for me. We want it. It's my top priority. But how do we do it? I think we do it with a number of ways. One is a better deal. The Glade Springs deal was terrible. The developer got 185 homes on 44 acres, and we got 10 affordable homes. Not a great deal. We can do better, and we can get more affordable housing, and we can do it in a better way, and neighbors can be satisfied with the process. And Jerry talked a little bit about it. They don't feel involved with the process, not the outcome per se, but the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
As we've heard from others today, development and growth pressures are one of the biggest issues that the town of Blacksburg is facing right now, and I'm sure we'll hear about it more as the evening progresses. It's a real tough challenge. When I first joined the town council, we were talking about growth and development issues, especially in the area of student housing. Around 2016, 2017, Virginia Tech announced that it was going to increase undergraduate student enrollment, and the town of Blacksburg has been working to kind of manage the growth expectations or the enrollment projections that the university put forward on the town. We've approved a lot of additional bedrooms for student housing in the town of Blacksburg. In 2019, the town of Blacksburg passed a resolution saying that we were essentially finished with the large student housing development projects that we've seen all around town. The town of Blacksburg took a strategy for student housing, building it where there was already existing infrastructure, where student housing already existed. That's why you've seen things like terrace views and the Sturbridges redeveloped to be taller and more dense to have more students there. But now we need to focus on the other housing and infrastructure needs that we have in the town of Blacksburg. Student housing, we've had thousands of additional bedrooms. We've been pressuring the university to put more student housing on Virginia Tech's campus. You might have seen the news about the Student Life Village that was approved by the Virginia Tech Board of Visitors last year. Now we need to focus on everything from affordable housing, from starter homes for young families that are wanting to move to the area or get jobs that work for the area. We need senior housing. We need more homeownership and rental opportunities in our community. It's a big issue that we're facing right now, and I think that we need to respond to the growth challenges that we're facing and manage effectively the development pressures that are put forward to the town of Blacksburg.
Thank you. And I'll stay on that theme with the next question. What are your views on the growth in numbers of Virginia Tech students, and how can we create a more equal partnership with the university? And I'll go to Jerry.
I understand and I share the frustration many of us feel about the partnership, the unequal partnership we have with the university. I do think we do need to acknowledge that we live in a company town. That company is Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's product is college graduates. You look around our region at all the towns that were going powerhouses in the early to middle 20th century because they were manufacturing, and they've kind of dwindled as the economy's changed. So we are blessed, but at the same time, sometimes I know we all feel it, we're cursed as well. The university is a state institution, and we're a town, so we have to acknowledge the limited regulatory authority we have over the university. But in my experience, I've found that the most effective way to persuade someone to change or do something differently is to use the lever of self-interest or enlightened self-interest. It's not that this is bad if you do this, or good, or this is the right course of action. It's that it's in their best interest. I believe Virginia Tech is starting to experience in their operations the problems that we're experiencing in the town. When they try to recruit and retain people, the affordability of housing, the job opportunities for spouses, childcare opportunities, all of those things are causing problems for them. And of course, those are problems for our community as well. So, I believe in clear, open communication, collaboration, and cooperation to help us move forward together. And also, open communication means having the hard discussions and having those painful ones of airing of grievances, as you will. We have plenty of good examples of cooperation in our community and region, and we can just build on what we have.
Thank you. Rick?
So Virginia Tech has grown at an uncontrolled rate over the last 5 years. They've added 10,000 students. My understanding is they did that without notification to the town, so the town wasn't ready for it. Next thing we knew, they had grown. Their freshman class had grown by 2,000 students. And so, yes, that's what they did. And so how can we as town council affect that? One thing is, we talked about open lines of communication. There has to be communication from town council to the president of the university. Lower levels of the university, I worked at the university 17 years. I knew all the admins, I know how it works, I know how the president and the board of visitors work. Those can address small problems. Those are beer cans on Saturday night in somebody's yard. Big problems like growth and big problems like Center Street, those problems have to go to the highest level, and that's the president. And that relationship, or that demand, if you will, hasn't been really established. And they're going to do what's in their best interest. I like the word enlightened best interest, but often they see with blinders what their best interest is. That's growth. They want to grow. They want to be a top 100 research institution, and town is secondary. But we can change that. We can change it through communication, and we can change it. We do have leverage. We do have leverage with them. They are an authority. They're a state authority. We're a town authority. So they are the superior authority, legally. But we can make that change, and they can work with the town more.
Thank you. Michael?
So I agree that open communication between the town and the university is very important. There are structures in place for the town and the university administration to communicate with each other. There's the Virginia Tech Blacksburg Liaison Committee, which includes the mayor and the vice mayor, and university administrators that would interact with different functions that happen in the town. I served on that committee for 2 years when I was vice mayor, and we did talk about the difficult issues like growth, Center Street, how we live in Blacksburg as a college community, and what sort of unique challenges that come along with that. There are other committees and boards that also address this issue. There's another liaison group that includes representation from the Blacksburg Town Council in Montgomery County, including the mayor and the vice mayor. I was also on that committee. Members of the Board of Supervisors, the school board, and Virginia Tech, and we all talk about concerns of mutual interest and how do we deal with the challenges that our community is facing, including growth associated with the university. I know that the mayor also meets regularly with President Sands, so there are these open lines of communications between Virginia Tech and the town of Blacksburg. I don't want citizens to think that those don't already exist. With that said, there are often going to be issues in a college town or in any community between different entities where there's different priorities. As you know, the town of Blacksburg growth is acceptable, but we need to manage it appropriately, and we've had some really tough conversations over the years with the university administration. You might remember in 2019 where we had the over-enrollment problem at Virginia Tech, where two different hotels were essentially turned into dorms for the university. We've made the message very clear that that's not something that's acceptable in the town of Blacksburg, and we've continued to have these conversations with the university administration.
Thank you. Liam?
Thanks. So Virginia Tech, as Rick mentioned, is a state institution. And because they're a state institution, they don't have to pay property tax in Blacksburg or in Montgomery County. So the largest landholder inside of Blacksburg does not pay property tax. Now, I'm not crazy about living in a world where Peggy has to pay property tax, but Tim Sands does not. I think that we need to get real and have a conversation with university administration about instituting a pilot program. And as I understand from the Board of Supervisors, this was something that was discussed pre-pandemic, but the wheels kind of fell off that cart dealing with the global pandemic. What a pilot program is, it stands for Payment in Lieu of Taxes. And my alma mater, the College of William & Mary, pays $750,000 a year to the city of Williamsburg as a gesture of goodwill, saying, I know you guys are paying for our roads, I know you guys are paying for our rescue squad. It's time for us to get real in these conversations with Virginia Tech and say, we need you guys to step up and be a good steward of the community in which you sit. And to Jerry's point, it is a company town, which means that it's incumbent on council to find means of economic diversification in Blacksburg, to make sure that in the future we are not quite so economically dependent on the main powerhouse here, that is Virginia Tech. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to shift gears a little bit here and ask you to reflect on how the town of Blacksburg can fight climate change and promote sustainability. And we'll start with Rick.
So climate change is real, it's man-made. We can have an impact on it. And at the town council level, the question is what have we been doing and what will we do? Have we transitioned to all electric or all, if not all electric yet, then to vehicles that are have both electric and gasoline, and hybrid vehicles like mine. I have 2 hybrids. And are our vehicles in Blacksburg right now hybrid? Maybe they are. I haven't seen them on the road because I've been looking for them. I mean, that's a good start. Other things, getting ready to transition to electric vehicles, it's important. Probably the infrastructure is not there for that quite yet, but it will be in the very near future, so I would get ready for that. We probably buy in advance years as a town, so we buy different, perhaps vehicles, so we would look down the road for that. That would be one of the things. Water quality is another. Water quality is something that's very important to Blacksburg. And I mentioned Glade Springs, but I go back to that because there's 2 springs on that property. The development is going to impact that water quality. And this is things that we can do as town council. We might not be able to affect the world, but we can take our steps. We can go to electric vehicles. We can go to hybrid. We can make those transitions. We can protect water. We can protect the water right now. So those are some of the things I would do.
Thank you. Michael.
Sure. So I think the town of Blacksburg needs a comprehensive approach to addressing sustainability. We've made a lot of progress over this issue over the years, and I think that we can do more to make sure that our community is addressing sustainability and we're working towards climate resilience as a community. Electric vehicles have already been talked about tonight. The town of Blacksburg has acquired grant money to convert over some of our Blacksburg transit fleet to electric vehicles, but we're looking for resources in federal and state grant funding to convert the entire Blacksburg transit fleet to electric vehicles. I also think that we need to look in the future at other things like having a municipal solar array so that we've had in our community the Solarize Blacksburg program that's helped residents have access to solar opportunities, but I think that we as a local government also need to set the example and also work towards using renewable sources of energy. I think we need to support our local and regional food systems. If people are getting their food from local sources, that's fewer miles and fewer carbon emissions that are going into the environment. We need to promote energy-efficient building practices, whether that's passive solar design or green roofs or even the location and positioning and site development of buildings. I think that that's something that we need to promote and encourage in our community. Really also, we need to take a smart growth approach to land use within the town of Blacksburg. I think that we need to encourage mixed-use development, encourage public and alternative transportation sources, whether that's our Blacksburg Transit or access to trails or alternative ways for folks to get around town. And I also think that we need to work on preserving our green and open spaces for future generations.
Thank you. Liam?
Well, Blacksburg it kind of sits at the nexus of technology and nature with the great Virginia Tech here in town and the mountainscape that is the backdrop for Blacksburg. So I think that we are well qualified as a town to kind of lead on a lot of these issues, to lead on matters of sustainability, on matters of green energy. I think that to Rick's point, we do need to build out infrastructure here in town for electric vehicles. In fact, I believe council just approved an electric vehicle charger down next to First and Main. So that'll be coming in sometime in the next couple of years, I imagine, right? And of course, from our general fund, we spend about $200,000 on our sustainability officers. Who are committed to making sure that the projects that come through the development process meet certain sustainability guidelines. And I think we need to be serious about tightening those up and making sure that we are a leader on these issues. And I think, to the point that I made earlier, that expanding infrastructure for bicycle and pedestrian traffic is an important means of cutting down on Blacksburg's carbon footprint. One of the few things that's cleaner than an electric car is a pedestrian. So the areas that we can encourage that sort of travel around Blacksburg, that's where I think we're really poised to kill two birds with one stone, reduce the traffic burden that we have downtown, and also reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Well, with 31 years doing environmental protection, finally a question I can answer happily. So Rick alluded to the stormwater management. That's a state regulation. That sets the bar. The town is enabled to run that program, but we're very limited in what we're allowed to do. Or what we're allowed to accept. And too often developers, because of cost and site size, they're able to buy credits, which basically means that they're able to say, we're going to preserve this over there, and it's probably not going to be as good over here. But there is an option for the town and most localities to do a study, go through this whole process, and ultimately get it blessed by the Department of Environmental Quality, my former employer, to create more stringent standards and require more water treatment on site. We've talked about this in council, and I believe it has merit for us to continue the conversation. And look, we're at the headwaters here. We're up at the top of the mountain. We need to do all we can to protect the water for ourselves and for the people downstream. The other thing is with our rezonings. Anytime we have a rezoning, that's a conversation. And when we have that conversation, that's a negotiation. Every single development that I've been involved with over the past 7 years, we've been able to get better development, tighter, more energy efficiency. So over time, the stock of housing, whether it's multifamily or single family, is being built in a better manner, which is going to use less electricity, hold its value. And finally, I just want to say that earlier, 2020 or 2021, the General Assembly gave cities and counties the opportunity to tax and limit the use of single-use plastic bags. They forgot about towns. I know this sounds silly, but it would be really great if we could make an effort to try to rein in the use of single-use plastic. It would make our environment better, use less resources, and it's just the better way to do things. Thanks.
Thank you. Changing gears again, this question is about taxes. Montgomery County reassessed its real estate this year, and the increased values averaged 30%. The Blacksburg Town Council voted to retain the same tax rate on those higher valuations. Please explain what the town needed this extra money for, and what more did citizens get for the increase in taxes? Also, what are your views on tax relief? And we'll start with Michael.
Sure. So that is a correct assessment of the situation, the tax situation in the town of Blacksburg. So the county reassessment came out. There's a county reassessment every 4 years. And there were some significant increases in housing costs, a lot of it because of reasons that we talked about today about increasing housing costs. That also increases the tax assessments in the community. The town of Blacksburg made a decision not to reduce the tax rate when this happened. We did look at different options. The town has experienced inflationary increases on government services just the same way as individuals have experienced these inflationary increases. It might have been possible for the town to reduce the tax rate, but when we looked at financial projections, we found that in the future we would have to increase it, and it was better to keep it flat than to get people excited about lowering the tax rate and then increase it later, like a year or two later. For the additional revenue that the town of Blacksburg has received from it, we've been able to work on maintaining our existing services and expand services in certain areas. What was the second? There was an additional part of the question, I think.
Tax relief. Any thoughts on
Yes.
tax relief?
So there are tax relief programs for individuals, for seniors and veterans and different individuals, and I support those programs. I would support the expansion of those programs. There's been talk, I know, at the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors level about providing tax relief for different types of affordable housing things that are in like a community land trust or something like that as well. So I do support tax relief efforts, especially for those who need it the most.
Thank you. Liam?
Yeah, I concur with Michael on that one, that tax relief is one of the most important things we can do for our low and middle income families here in Blacksburg, particularly this year with the reassessment that was issued by the town. I think we should also look at not just property tax, but the other taxes that are levied by the town of Blacksburg. For example, the meals tax. Now, we're very lucky that the General Assembly a couple of years ago voted to eliminate the grocery tax, and that's saving a lot of low-income families a lot of money. But the meals tax remains in effect here in Blacksburg, and we get a little over $7 million of our general fund revenue from meals tax. So I think we need to find new and creative ways to levy taxes on folks here in Blacksburg, folks that are coming to visit Blacksburg, but not in ways that are regressive, in ways that do impact low and middle income families greater than those families that are making a little bit more. So again, very supportive of tax relief for seniors, veterans, and of course for those living in affordable housing. And I don't know that I can comment on what the town needed that extra money for, since I was not on town council, regrettably, at that time. But thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
So I think Michael did it justice. I just want to add that when we were looking at whether or not to reduce the rate slightly, we knew that the town's portion of the Virginia retirement system for its employees had stayed the same, and we were lucky that the health care stayed the same, but things don't stay the same for 2 years in a row. So we knew that going into the next fiscal year, that those two big items were going to probably come up, and more than likely they were going to go up. And what Michael said, the idea that we would drop it a penny or so to turn around and have to bring it back up again the very next year, that was not palatable to any of us at that time. But while we're talking about taxes, one thing that I want to say is that our community, we have a lot of second homes, vacation homes, football weekend homes. And one thing I'd like to investigate is whether or not we have the ability as a town to have a two-tiered real estate tax. In a lot of states, Vermont, one of my favorite states, they have a homestead clause. So if you live and work and this is the place where you live, you pay one rate. If it's your second home or vacation home or investment home, you pay a different rate. And so I'd like to either see if that's something possible that we can do, if we've been enabled by the state legislation. And if we haven't, then we need to work, which we do every year with our priorities. We have good networks that we work with throughout the Commonwealth, that we need to work with our state representatives to say, hey, why don't you help us do some of this? And that would be a very fair way of helping balance the increases, and also it would maybe hopefully limit the competition that's occurring that's causing part of our availability of housing is people are being outbid by folks that live in other parts of the state because they can afford to outbid them. The people that want to live here can't live here because of those vacation homes.
Thank you. Rick?
So we've talked about affordability of living in Blacksburg. Well, one of those things that makes it more expensive to live in Blacksburg is the tax. And so we had a 30% on average tax increase because of the property reevaluation. But it is a 30% tax increase on average. And that tax increase is passed on to companies that rent. And so in some ways that is passed on to renters. Small family homes, people who can't afford to live in Blacksburg because the property values are so high, well, they can't afford the taxes either. And so why would we compound what we know is a problem with a tax increase of that high? I would have done that, prorated the taxes over 3 years is what I would have done. Instead of taking the 30% hit this year, I would have done 10, 10, and 10. We talk about future cost. Well, future cost, there's going to be that same 30% tax on properties in that second year when future costs come around. Same with the third year because it's still going to be there. And so there is enough revenue to pay for those future costs. The other thing is that I spent my career in leadership and management. I've managed budgets, managed 2,000 staff members. I know how to do that. I know how to work with a budget. I know how to control future costs. I think there was a way for us to lessen that impact on Blacksburg, and I would not have done a 30% increase. I would have prorated over 3 years.
Thank you. Another need that isn't addressed by letting market forces control services and development is affordable child care. Does town council have a role to play in increasing the availability of affordable child care in Blacksburg? And I'll start with Liam.
Well, that's another one where our hands are tied to some extent by the General Assembly. We are a Dillon rule state, which means that the General Assembly dictates what powers towns, counties, and cities have. Towns, counties, and cities aren't guaranteed those powers by the absence of them being listed in the Virginia Code. So insofar as we're able to offer credits or abatements on things like child care, the town's kind of limited. And further, this might be more of an issue for Montgomery County, for the Board of Supervisors, since Blacksburg's role in the countywide schools is somewhat marginal. It's a better question for the Board of Supervisors and for the school board than it is for us. But I do know that in the 9th Congressional District, which is where we are, and it's the lowest level that the census breaks it down, 1 in 5 children grow up in poverty. That's 20% of the children living in our neighborhood grow up in the most backbreaking poverty you can imagine. And so we need to find ways as a town, as a county, of alleviating the burden that these families feel. I think that it's worth exploring ways at the county level. Of course, I'm not running for supervisor this year. That was a couple years ago, if memory serves. But exploring free lunch for all students. Just small things that we can do to make life a little easier for parents here in Montgomery County and here in Blacksburg. And barring a change in the Dillon rule that applies to the town of Blacksburg, I do think our hands are to some extent tied on that one.
Thank you. Go to Jerry. Thoughts on childcare?
So every year we do our budget, as I alluded to earlier, and people were wondering about, well, what are we doing with that extra money? Well, one thing that we're fortunate because of our situation is that we are able to do a lot of agency funding. So we do send funding every year to the interfaith child care. And then also with the, I keep wanting to say affordable, the American Recovery Act, the town received quite a large sum of money. We put that to the areas of food security, affordable housing, and childcare. That's money we have to spend in 3 years. And what we did is working with the Community Foundation, there's like a 3-tiered program that we're working on to help with the wage gap, to encourage more people to get into the business of childcare and to facilitate more facilities. And so, that's only 3-year money, but part of the idea is things like this occur in other parts of our country, and by us putting this money here, it's going to provide a proof of concept, and then that will allow the folks that are running this program to be able to take that forward, where you can find corporate donors. I'd like to think Virginia Tech might jump in on it, but all of that is one way that we are trying to be creative and innovative and use the money that we have to get better results for our community in the long term.
Thank you. Rick.
I recently attended a Support the YMCA event at Steve Jacobs' house. I think it was 150th anniversary of the YMCA. And I had that opportunity to speak with the executive director, Ryan Martin. We had a long discussion on what the Y does, what they want to do, what their aspirations are, and affordable child care came up. And I think I raised it first, but he was like, yes, we want to do that. And as we discussed affordable child care, I offered him some ideas, just kind of brainstorming with him, like Roundup for the Y, get more support from the town and things like that. And in that discussion, it did occur to me, again, the affordability question keeps coming up. So affordable housing, affordable child care, and if we can support the Y, which I believe we can, they're ready and willing to do child care. And that's right here in our backyard. Jerry's point about increasing the wages for teachers, that's very important, because not only don't they have the money in the facility yet to do it, but they have to recruit teachers. So of course, I thought back to my days having to recruit staff and things. I thought, okay, retired teachers, might do it one day a week because they're doing it right now. We know people that are doing it right now. But I would say, let's support affordable child care in the town. Let's do it through the Y. They're good folks. They're doing a good job. I think that'd be a great opportunity for us.
And
Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael.
As others have pointed out, I support affordable child care opportunities in the town of Blacksburg as well. Jerry mentioned the different funding sources. We do have agency funding where the town of Blacksburg routinely gives annual grant money to different organizations in the town of Blacksburg. They're doing all sorts of community services, including child care services in our community. I think Jerry also mentioned that the town of Blacksburg received $13 million in American Rescue Plan Act money, and one of the core areas that was invested in was affordable child care. So we are committed to this issue, and the town of Blacksburg is invested in affordable child care. There's other ways that the town of Blacksburg can support this effort, whether it's through zoning incentives for child care facilities or considering child care when we're making land use decisions, making sure that there's a sufficient amount of commercial space, that child care facilities are near schools and residences, and that there's sufficient land use and zoning and permitting that's available for child care facilities. I think that there's opportunities for partnerships, whether that's with Virginia Tech or other community organizations, for us all to work together to address affordable child care. I think also supporting a universal pre-K is something that the town of Blacksburg should do as well.
Thank you. On a different topic, throughout the United States and more locally in Montgomery County, and especially in our schools, there has been a vocal movement to dehumanize, terrorize, attack, and silence trans people and the LGBTQ community more generally. Dillon Rule notwithstanding, and beyond required EEOC statements, how might the town communicate its support for and welcome all people, especially marginalized groups? And we'll start with Jerry.
In my time on council, we've done many resolutions for many different things. So the very basic would be a resolution that all of us, the town council, would sign off of in support of that. Personally, what I was taught as our democratic principles is that the majority rules, but the minority is protected. And I firmly believe that a society or a community or a culture is judged by how they treat the most vulnerable. So I think anything and everything that we are capable of doing, we should do to make sure that those most vulnerable people, that minority of folks in our community, are receive the same respect and dignity that everyone else expects. And then I guess probably with our purchasing and budgeting and our contracting and things, there may be the opportunity to institute certain guidelines or requirements of contractors and consultants and everyone that does the work for the town, and that's worth exploring.
Rick?
So I actually agree with Jerry that the attacks that have been happening nationally in schools and outside of schools are just terrible. And, shouldn't happen. We shouldn't put up with it. So what can we do? The thought about a resolution is great. And the thinking about what can we do concretely as a town council. I think it's a little bit more difficult there, but I think there are some things that we could do. Could we work cooperatively with the school board and the school system? I know that's a county thing and that's a school board thing, but what's to keep the town of Blacksburg from working with them? You say, well, how would you work with them? Maybe it's an educational initiative. You say, well, that's outside your realm. Well, maybe it's not outside our realm. You would have to brainstorm and figure out how that might be accepted by somebody who were not in that business. They are. But I did serve on the school board for 4 years, so I do understand how they think about that purview. But I think that's a possibility, and I think our support, sometimes the support is verbal and written and in a resolution, but a lot of times it's individual. And it's how you work with your neighbors, how you work with your churches, how you work with your schools and teachers. And that's where I would encourage all of us in the community and on town council to stop that type of behavior and encourage inclusion.
Thank you. Michael?
Sure. So I promise I didn't plant this question in the audience, but whoever did ask it, please see me afterwards so I can thank you. I have more than 20 years of experience doing LGBT advocacy work. When I was a college student, I was president of the campus LGBT organization, which is now known as Hokie Pride. I served for 7 years on the board of directors of Equality Virginia, which is the state's leading LGBT organization, including a year as board chair. I've also been on the LGBT faculty staff caucus at Virginia Tech as a part of their leadership team and very involved in this issue. Over the years, the town of Blacksburg and the Blacksburg Town Council have taken many actions to support LGBT rights and LGBT causes. For many years in the Commonwealth of Virginia, there was no law that protected LGBT people from non-discrimination in employment and housing and credit and other areas. Fortunately, that changed in 2020. Before that change happened, the town of Blacksburg passed multiple resolutions supporting a change in state law that it would allow us to protect our own employees and our Blacksburg citizens from discrimination. The town of Blacksburg, before I came on the town council, already protected its own employees from discrimination based on sexual orientation. A number of years ago, we added gender identity to our non-discrimination policy. We've been very supportive of this issue. We've spoken to our state legislatures about this issue of how that we can support folks. I've been very disappointed to see over the years In recent years, the attacks, especially on trans kids that we've seen. I attended the school board debate that the League of Women Voters and NAACP hosted recently, and that was a major topic of discussion. I do think that the town of Blacksburg could do a resolution in support of trans kids and in protecting LGBT youth in this community.
Thank you. And Liam.
Well, I'd say I think maybe the most appropriate answer would be to do whatever Michael tells me to do on town council. I also think it begins by kind of denouncing some of the horrendous people that are currently seeking to take control of our school board, and I'm happy to use this platform to proudly endorse Ed Guitry and Derek Roundtree for school board. I think that's the first step to making sure that we don't elect leaders who are intent on bullying people in our public schools. I can say with some confidence that I'm the only person sitting up here who has been a student in an MCPS public school in the last decade. And I have seen how LGBTQ students are marginalized not only by their peers, but by the system that they're in. And so as leaders, we need to be forceful in how we denounce these things. We need to be fearless in how we go out into the community and advocate for these people who are marginalized, who are the minority, who need protection. And so yeah, to that end, very much so, listen to what Michael tells me to do.
Thank you. And we'll wrap up this evening with another question about housing. Besides the significant issue of affordable housing, there are other housing issues. We market ourselves as a community that's good for retirement, but our seniors need to move to Christiansburg to get a place to live. Students are encroaching on residential neighborhoods and limited senior housing. What can the town council do to strategically manage housing rather than defaulting to market forces? And this question will start with Rick.
So affordable housing, we often think of as only housing for working families who have very limited income. But in reality, affordable housing is for our seniors who are on fixed income. And that fixed income, if you're only on Social Security and that's your only source of income, and you've worked all your life, and that minimal amount is all you have. You don't have a pension. You don't have a retirement plan. You're in trouble. And you're in trouble finding rentals, and you're in trouble finding homes to buy, especially in Blacksburg, because it's so expensive. So what can town do? I mean, I think it still goes back to affordable housing. It's what can the town do about affordable housing? One idea might be to increase it and to offer it to both low income and both low income retirees, is ask all the developers to do 10% of their development as affordable housing. That's what other cities are doing. That's what other towns are doing, and it's been very effective. There are some small rental homes that would be good for affordable housing in town. They come on the market, folks buy them up, rent them again. Can the town intervene in that and actually buy some of those properties as part of their affordable housing portfolio? Is that a possibility? And I throw that out there as a brainstorming idea because there's more than one solution, and we've got to look at multiple solutions, both for the seniors and for low-income folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael.
The town of Blacksburg is experiencing a housing shortage that's affecting all areas of the housing market, whether that's the rental market or the homeownership market. The town of Blacksburg did a study, or released a study in 2021 where we asked community members what was the biggest challenge facing the community as Blacksburg continues to grow. The number one response was the cost of housing, and the number two response was the housing supply. This is a huge issue affecting our community. Housing studies have confirmed this as well, and also in 2021, the New River Valley Regional Commission released a report that found that 5,500 income-restricted units were needed to stabilize the current residents with low to moderate incomes in our community. These residents are spending more than 50% of their income on housing and unable to afford housing without sacrificing other needs, whether that's utilities or food. Those numbers were for the entire New River Valley, not just the town of Blacksburg, but as a community, we need to do our part. We also need to meet our housing needs in other areas, whether that's, like I mentioned before, young families moving to the area, our senior population that needs housing opportunities where they can age in place. The town of Blacksburg has been a leader, actually, in providing resources for aging in place. We've worked with organizations like the New River Valley Agency on Aging on that issue. There are tools that are available that can help the town of Blacksburg address our housing needs, whether that's zoning changes, whether that's incentives for certain types of development like affordable housing development or sustainable development, whether that's finding funding sources or applying for grant resources to provide local matching fund and gap financing for housing needs that are missing within our community, or whether that's involving things like down payment assistance programs for first-time home buyers. We have numerous housing needs, and I think that the town of Blacksburg needs to take a comprehensive approach to addressing this issue.
Thank you. Liam?
As I mentioned in my introduction, seniors are very much so a part of the affordable housing crisis that we're facing. And actually, it's worth noting that it's not just an affordable housing crisis that we're facing here in Blacksburg, but a nationwide housing crisis. The length of time that the average home is on the market in the United States is about 8 days. But last year, NPR reported that the average length of time a home is on the market in Blacksburg is 8 hours. So it's not just a problem for affordable housing, it's a problem for all housing. And as we talk about aging in place, I think it's important for the town to work through their HOME program, their home program, to expand the stock of affordable housing earmarked for seniors that are 55 and older. I believe in 2014, it's 8 rental properties that came online for folks 55 and older on Grissom Lane. And I think that it's worth exploring areas of the town that we can build on that progress. And we need to think about ways that we can incorporate new retirement communities into the town of Blacksburg. Part of this is not just an issue that seniors are experiencing, but the children of these retirees are experiencing. Folks having to drive, I mean, my mother, who's in the audience today, when her mother was ill, she had to drive all the way to Pulaski to visit her in the retirement community that she was in out there, in that rehab community. And so this is a problem that's not just straining the pocketbooks of our seniors, but also the pocketbooks of our families and our professionals here in Blacksburg. And not just the pocketbooks, but also the heartstrings. I mean, if you're having to drive 2 hours round trip to visit your parents who are aging, that causes a significant burden for everybody involved. So this is definitely an issue, and I think that we should expand the work of the home program to build more affordable housing like that, specifically earmarked for our seniors.
Thank you. And Jerry?
Well, I think Michael hit a lot of the details, and Liam followed up with that. I do want to point out 2 things. We have 2 tools that we didn't have before. The first tool is our Affordable Housing Development Fund. So when we have development occurring, all of us all the time say, what about affordable housing? What about housing for seniors? What about anything other than student-built housing? And we're always told this isn't the place, this isn't the market. But with this fund we have now, they may go ahead and build that, but they can proffer through the process a cash money to go into that fund. We as a town need to fund that regularly as well, and that creates a pot of money that we can use to incentivize developers to build what we need in other places. Unfortunately, too often, affordable housing, senior housing, market forces make it very difficult, and a lot of times you need to have government subsidies and rebates, et cetera, and that creates that. Secondly, we created the Community Home Trust, and that's where these homes are going into this trust, and basically they are affordable forever. It's an amazing thing. We're working through that, and we're trying to build up. It's a partnership with Montgomery County, but we're hoping Christiansburg jumps in. So those are 2 key areas that we have those tools that we didn't have before. I'm very proud of the work the staff did and that the council did in improving those. And to Rick's thing is that, we need to increase the supply. You know, prices go down with supply, but we have to be careful. We need the right type of housing, and if we can redo the ordinance, the subdivision, or not subdivision, the zoning ordinance, that will give us another tool to be able to get the type of product we need in this town now for everyone.
Thank you, and thank you all for your very thoughtful responses to all these questions, and thanks to the audience for the thoughtful questions. We'll finish up with each candidate having 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we'll start with Michael.
Sure. I want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to participate in this debate and engage with the residents of Blacksburg. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for your time tonight. Throughout my tenure on town council, I have learned that effective leadership is about listening, collaborating, and taking action. I have worked to be a voice for Blacksburg residents regardless of their background or circumstances. My commitment to enhancing our community, creating opportunities for everyone, and ensuring a sustainable future is unwavering. These principles have guided my decisions and voting record, and they will continue to do so if I'm elected again. In my time on town council, I've had the privilege of achieving real progress for Blacksburg, along with my colleagues on the town council. I voted to eliminate bus fares, making transit more accessible for our residents and visitors. I've supported the creation of new housing options like accessory apartments. I've voted to accept hundreds of acres of new recreation space along Brush Mountain. I've celebrated as we open the doors of a new state-of-the-art police station downtown. I've consistently approved infrastructure and capital investments that support our neighborhoods and commercial centers. Blacksburg has a choice in this election. I'm not just here to talk about housing affordability. I have a track record of taking real, tangible actions to address this critical issue. I've brought together community members, neighbors, small business owners, and others to find common ground. I believe that being on the town council is about listening to all parts of the community, ensuring that every voice is heard, especially those voices that have been left out of the conversation for too long. As we look ahead, I believe that Blacksburg's best days are still to come. Together, we can create a town that thrives, where housing is accessible, our commercial centers flourish, and our environment is protected. We can ensure that every resident has the chance to succeed and that our community remains inclusive and vibrant. I ask for your support, not just for me, but for this shared vision for Blacksburg. My name is Michael Sutphin, and I'm running for re-election. I would appreciate your vote this fall.
Thank you. Liam.
I want to say thanks again to you, Peggy, and to Karen and Goonan for helping to organize this event, and to all of you for showing up today and voicing your concerns and your hopes and your vision for the future of Blacksburg. You know, leadership is a collaborative effort, which is why I'm so proud to have received the endorsement of not only Councilman Ford and Councilman Sutphin, but Councilwoman Mattingly and Councilwoman Colliver and Vice Mayor Anderson and Supervisor Biggs and my former opponent for the Board of Supervisors, Sarah Bond, and the Democratic nominee for the House of Delegates 41st District, Lily Franklin. I think all together we're going to be able to work hand in glove to make a better Blacksburg. And these relationships, when combined with my rich experience as a Blacksburg Planning Commissioner and as a member of the Montgomery County Parks and Recreation Commission, they've positioned me to take the next step in service to my hometown. In addition to representing the concerns of a new generation, I have a comprehensive vision for what lays before us in Blacksburg. We're going to make sure that Blacksburg is a place that everyone can call home, a place for folks from all socioeconomic backgrounds, without losing the things that we love about our community. There's more we can do to engage in productive dialogue with Virginia Tech's leadership. There's more we can do to improve roadway safety, to grow our parkland, and to protect the charm and character of our small but growing town. Now, if elected, I can't promise that I will succeed on my entire legislative agenda, but what I can promise you is this, that I will always show up for you. I will always be there when you or your neighbors have a need, and I will always be your direct connection to your local government. So please come talk with me after the program. Ask me the questions that Peggy didn't get to. Take a lawn sign. We have tons of them in the lobby. Please take one. And make a plan to vote this year, either on November 7th or early, and vote for Jerry Ford and Michael Sutphin and write in Liam Watson. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry.
So I want to thank the League and NAACP for putting this one on tonight, as well as all of them. Both of your organizations have an amazing history of creating more access and opportunity And this education component is so important, and all you've done for our region is amazing, so thank you. Thanks to everyone in the audience that came out tonight, and thanks for all of you that are zooming in on us on the internet. We all arrived in Blacksburg along different paths, some by birth, many for higher education, and for others because of employment or business opportunities. Regardless of the path we followed, we all chose to remain in Blacksburg because of the high quality of life, its small town charm, the overall livability of town living, or reasons only known to the individual. Those things that endear us to Blacksburg did not happen by chance. They happened because engaged residents and community leaders made deliberate and thoughtful decisions that resulted in the community that we all call home. I know I bring a pragmatic, problem-solving mindset to my deliberations, as well as a deep appreciation for the history of our town and our region. I know from my past experience and my deep curiosity to learn and grow that I am well suited to continue as a member of Town Council. It's our turn now to be engaged and make thoughtful and careful decisions so current and future residents find the same open and welcoming community that we all found when we chose to call Blacksburg our home. I'd be honored to continue to serve as a member of your town council. Thank you.
And Rick.
I said in my opening that I was running to be of service to neighbors and neighborhoods. And I want to expand a little bit on that because I did have 4 years of experience on the Montgomery County School Board, and we did some great things when I was there. So you know people by what they've done and not what they say. So on the Montgomery County School Board, 2 things that I did and I was really proud of. We hired the first female superintendent and the first person of color. That was a big deal in Montgomery County. The other thing is I supported teachers and I supported classroom learning. There was a lack of a policy that there was egregious behavior, what would be the action. And there were multiple examples of that. I was the one who said, let's help teachers. Let's help classroom learning. Let's create a policy where we address that. And we did. These are actions. The other thing is that we've all talked about listening, and we've talked about, hearing our neighbors, but we've also talked about we all endorse each other, and we're all endorsed by town council. I'm the person that will bring change. I'm the person that is listening to the citizens out there, and I'm the bridge between the citizens to town council. The current group is the same voice. It's like a paradigm. They're listening to each other. They're not listening to the citizens. I'll be the new voice, but I'll also work collaboratively. I did it on the Montgomery County School Board, and we did good things, and I'll do it on town council. Thank you.
Thank you all again for your participation and your thoughtful responses. Thank you, the audience, for coming out and giving us your thoughtful questions. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. And I'd like to invite Karen Jones to close us out tonight.
So again, thank you to the candidates. It's really hard to answer such tough questions from the citizens of Blacksburg. Thank you all for all saying yes when we extended the invitation. To you all, again, just a reminder, you can vote now, and you can vote at our local registrar's office, which has moved, and so it's next to the food line on Roanoke Street in Christiansburg. Or you can vote on Election Day, November the 7th. And just a final reminder, we do have one last candidate forum, and that is next Thursday in Christiansburg for Town Council. We don't work in our silos. Christiansburg, Blacksburg, Montgomery County, we are one. And so just as you've shown up for the Montgomery County candidate forums and here tonight, I hope to see you next week at Christiansburg. So thank you all so much and have a good evening.
Thank you.